The morning light settles into the narrow passage between the house and the fence, finding the grain of the wood and the cool surface of the stone. There is a weight here that feels permanent, a deliberate placement of natural elements that asks for nothing but to be seen in the stillness. The cedar stump holds its burden with a quiet strength, its silvered edges catching the soft glow of the early hour. Shadows from the leaves above move so slowly they appear frozen, tracing patterns across the stacked minerals. Every edge of the stone is rounded by time, resting in a balance that seems to belong to the earth itself. The air is cool and motionless in this small corner of the world. It is a space defined by boundaries, yet within those limits, the textures of wood and rock create a landscape of infinite detail. One might stand here for a long time and notice only the way the light shifts a fraction of an inch across the grain. The house is close, a silent protector of this small sanctuary where the art is not made but found. The courtyard holds the heat of the afternoon within its brick walls, creating a pocket of warmth where the wood and stone reside. The log bench sits low to the ground, its heavy form anchored by the slate that circles it like a quiet ripple in water. There is a sense of gravity here, a grounding presence that pulls the eye downward to the textures of the earth. The slate is cool and dark, contrasting with the warm, honeyed tones of the carved timber. No wind reaches this depth, leaving the dust motes to hang suspended in the shafts of light. The silence is thick and restorative, a layer of peace that coats every surface. Each ring in the wood tells a story of years passed in silence, now given a second life in this enclosed domestic clearing. The proximity of the home provides a backdrop of safety, a sense that this art is a private conversation between the resident and the materials. The shadows lengthen, stretching across the stone paths with a deliberate, unhurried grace that defines the passing of time. The stone wall of the house provides a rugged canvas for the timber frames that cling to its surface. These wooden structures hold the limestone pockets in a rigid, geometric grace, bringing a sense of order to the organic textures of the garden. Dappled light dances across the assembly, highlighting the contrast between the rough-hewn wood and the pale, porous stone. It is a vertical landscape, a miniature cliffside constructed with care and intention within the reach of a doorway. The stillness is absolute. Not a single leaf stirs in the small pockets of earth. The architecture of the home and the architecture of the garden decor blur into a single, cohesive existence. There is a profound quiet in the way the sunlight hits the timber, revealing the cracks and knots that signify its history. This is a place of observation, where the verticality of the space forces the gaze upward, away from the floor and into the play of light and shadow. The enclosure feels complete, a world contained within a few feet of stone and wood, perfectly preserved in the amber of the afternoon. granite basin sits in the deep shade, its hollowed center catching a reflection of the sky that is barely visible through the canopy. It rests upon a wooden plinth, the grain of the timber spiraling beneath the weight of the stone. Ivy creeps along the fence behind it, its green fingers frozen in a slow climb toward the light. This corner is a pocket of coolness, a retreat from the brightness of the open sky. The textures are tactile and rich, the cold, pecked surface of the granite and the dry, fibrous surface of the wood. There is no sound of water, only the visual suggestion of its presence in the carved bowl. The stillness is so profound that the garden feels like a photograph of itself, a moment caught between breaths. The smallness of the space creates an intimacy, a feeling that this object was placed here for a singular viewer. The light is soft and diffused, washing over the scene without creating harsh edges, allowing the materials to speak in low, visual tones. It is a study in permanence, a small monument to the beauty of raw materials left to exist in the quiet. The path is a mosaic of the forest and the river, laid out in a rhythmic sequence that leads toward the hidden gate. Thick slices of wood, showing their concentric rings of life, are interspersed with flat, gray stones that have been smoothed by unseen currents. The golden hour light skims the surface of the path, casting long, dramatic shadows that accentuate the texture of every element. High hedges rise on either side, creating a green corridor that feels private and sacred. There is a sense of arrival in this small stretch of ground, a feeling that every step is a deliberate choice. The air is warm and heavy with the scent of the garden, yet perfectly still. The house is just out of sight, yet its presence is felt in the manicured edges and the thoughtful arrangement of the path. This is a journey that spans only a few yards, but feels like a transit through a different time. The light glows on the edges of the wooden rounds, turning the mundane materials into gold and silver. It is a moment of pure transition, held in the quiet of a residential evening. The lattice stands as a silent sentinel against the stone, its wooden laths intersecting in a perfect grid. From its frame, small stones hang by bits of twine, suspended in the air like weights on a clock that has stopped. The morning sun hits the arrangement directly, making the twine glow and casting sharp, geometric shadows against the wall behind it. There is a fragility in the way the stones hang, yet they are solid and unmoving. The garden around it is small and tidy, a domestic space where even the art is contained and measured. The stone wall provides a backdrop of antiquity, its rough surface a contrast to the clean lines of the wood. No breeze disturbs the hanging stones. They remain perfectly vertical, anchored by their own mass. The scene is one of quiet contemplation, an invitation to look closely at the interplay of line and form. The textures of the twine, the wood, and the rock create a tactile symphony that requires no sound to be understood. It is a small, intentional gesture of beauty in a corner that might otherwise be forgotten, a testament to the presence of the hand in the garden. The driftwood arch rises from the white pebbles like a bleached bone, its form twisted and elegant under the midday sun. Below it, the dark slate provides a stark contrast, a deep shadow that never moves. The porch of the house is just steps away, its clean, modern lines framing this piece of natural sculpture. The light is bright and uncompromising, revealing every crack and fissure in the silvered wood. There is a starkness to the scene, a minimalism that speaks of a quiet, ordered life. The pebbles are clean and uniform, creating a sea of white that reflects the heat. The garden is small, a curated slice of nature brought into the domestic sphere. The driftwood, once tossed by waves, now finds its rest in this silent, windless enclosure. It is a study in stillness, a composition where every element has been chosen for its shape and its relationship to the light. The silence of the noon hour hangs over the garden, a heavy, golden blanket that muffles the world outside the fence. Here, the wood and stone are the only inhabitants, existing in a state of perfect, unmoving harmony. The wooden pillars stand in a tight cluster, a small forest of timber in the corner of the brick patio. Each one is topped with a single, flat stone, a capping of mineral on a body of fiber. The overhead light is soft and even, erasing harsh shadows and allowing the natural colors of the materials to glow. The brick of the patio is a warm red, a sturdy foundation for this vertical arrangement. This is a residential space, an outdoor room where the decor is as permanent as the walls. The heights of the pillars vary, creating a rhythmic skyline within the small garden plot. There is a sense of community among the objects, a grouping that feels intentional and protective. The air is still, and the garden is empty of people, leaving the pillars to occupy the space with their quiet dignity. The texture of the wood grain is visible, a map of the tree's history, now serving as a pedestal for the ancient stone. It is a scene of profound rest, where the materials of the earth are elevated and honored in the privacy of a home. The wooden trough is heavy and dark, its surface weathered by seasons spent in this quiet corner. Within it, a collection of river rocks sits in a silent pool of color rockers, grays, and deep reds. A few larger stones break the surface of the smaller ones, like islands in a rocky sea. Dappled sunlight filters through the branches above, moving slowly across the stones as the earth turns. The enclosure of the garden is felt in the way the light is partitioned, falling only in small, bright patches. This is a domestic art piece, a container of memories or perhaps just a collection of beauty found on a walk. The wood of the trough is thick and solid, holding the weight of the stones without effort. There is no movement here, no sound of water, only the visual richness of the wet-look stones in the dry air. The house is a constant, silent neighbor, providing the boundaries that make this small display feel significant. It is a moment of stillness captured in a vessel, a small, enclosed world that requires only the light to be complete. The screen divides the space with a rhythmic pattern of wood and stone, a porous wall that defines the garden's zones. Horizontal slats of warm timber hold smooth, gray stones in their gaps, creating a texture that is both architectural and organic. The soft morning light illuminates the grain of the wood and the matte finish of the rocks, casting gentle shadows onto the patio floor. The garden beyond is a blur of green, a soft backdrop to this structured art. There is a sense of privacy and enclosure here, the screen acting as a veil between the home and the earth. The air is crisp and unmoving, the silence of the morning held within the slats of the wood. Each stone is unique, held in place by the tension of the timber, a collaboration between the hard and the soft. This is a residential garden at its most thoughtful, where even the boundaries are an opportunity for art. The stillness is absolute, a pause in the day before the world wakes up. The screen stands as a testament to the beauty of simple materials, arranged with a hand that values both order and the natural world. The ladder leans at a relaxed angle against the warm brick, its rungs serving as shelves for a collection of flat, ancient stones. It is a staircase to nowhere, a vertical gallery in a small backyard corner. The afternoon sun hits the brick and the wood, creating a glow that seems to radiate from the materials themselves. Small pots are nestled at the base, their contents as still as the stones above them. This is a space of miniature scale, a curated domesticity that finds value in the discarded and the found. The wood of the ladder is silvered and dry, its texture a history of exposure to the elements. The stones rest in their places with a heavy finality, unmoving in the quiet air. There is no wind to stir the leaves or shift the shadows. The garden is a vessel of stillness. The proximity of the house is felt in the brickwork and the orderly arrangement of the pots. It is a scene that celebrates the small, the private, and the quiet. Each rung of the ladder is a plateau of peace, a step in a journey that leads only deeper into the presence of the moment. The logs form a wooden hinge in the center of the small lawn, their vertical form surrounding a central boulder of gray granite. The sunset light is low and orange, catching the top edges of the wood and the rough texture of the stone. The lawn is perfectly manicured, a flat green sea that anchors this terrestrial constellation. The enclosure of the garden is visible in the background of fence, the corner of a porch, the edge of a roof. There is a primal quality to the arrangement, a modern echo of ancient structures, scaled down for the intimacy of a home. The air is cooling, the stillness of the evening settling over the wood and stone. Not a blade of grass moves. The boulder in the center is a massive presence, a silent anchor for the circle of timber. This is a place of standing, of remaining, of being. The light fades slowly, pulling the colors out of the grass and leaving only the silhouettes of the logs against the deepening sky. It is a moment of profound enclosure, a world within a world, held in the quiet of a suburban evening. The frame box sits flush with the ground, a window into the geology of the garden. Layers of smooth river rocks, jagged slate, and cedar wood chips are arranged in horizontal bands, a subterranean art piece brought to the surface. The morning light is clear and sharp, defining the edges of every stone and the fibrous texture of the wood. It sits beside a path of clean pavers, a moment of intentional complexity in a simple landscape. The garden is small and quiet, the house just a few feet away, its shadow retreating as the sun rises. There is a sense of order and care in the layering, a human touch that has organized the chaos of the earth into a tidy rectangle. The air is still and fresh, the morning silence unbroken by any movement. This is a detail of a life lived in proximity to the ground, a small celebration of the materials that make up the world beneath our feet. The textures are rich and varied, a visual feast that requires no narrative other than its own existence. It is a quiet, domestic monument to the beauty of the earth, contained within a simple wooden frame. The wooden slab is a massive piece of timber, its live edge following the original curve of the tree. It rests heavily on two pillars of stacked fieldstone, a table that feels like it grew out of the ground. The garden is shaded and cool, the overhead light filtered through a thick canopy that keeps the air still and quiet. This is a residential sanctuary, an outdoor room where the furniture is made of the very elements it inhabits. There are no chairs, no people, only the empty table holding the silence of the garden. The stone pillars are rugged and varied in color, a solid foundation for the warm, expansive wood. The space is enclosed by the walls of the house and a high stone fence, creating a feeling of absolute seclusion. One could imagine the hours passing here in total stillness, the only change being the slow movement of light across the grain of the slab. It is a study in scale and permanence, a place where the art is the utility, and the utility is the art. The quiet is a physical presence, a layer of calm that rests on the surface of the wood like dust. The spiral begins in the center of the mulch bed and winds outward, a path of wooden stakes and small stones that draws the eye into its curve. The golden hour light catches the tips of the stakes and the polished surfaces of the rocks, creating a sense of movement in an object that is perfectly still. The corner of the garden is small and tightly enclosed by a brick wall and a wooden fence, making the spiral feel like a hidden secret of the home. The air is warm and golden, the silence of the late afternoon held within the domestic boundaries. There is a meditative quality to the shape, a suggestion of growth and time that is frozen in the materials. The dark mulch provides a deep, matte background that makes the light-colored wood and stone pop with clarity. This is the final note of the garden, a quiet flourish in a space dedicated to presence and peace. The house is silent, the garden is empty, and the spiral remains, a permanent gesture of art in the quietude of a residential evening. The light fades, but the form holds, a last testament to the beauty of wood and stone.